now.
6 podcasts, 7 seconds in. I'm DPZ. That's Dustin. We're going to talk about sports cards today.
You take the card and put it in the sleeve.
How you guys all doing? Good? Great. Awesome. Wonderful. Fine. Dandy. Dustin, what's up, brother?
It's been a week, man. It's been a beast of a week. I feel like I say that every week, though. I think we both have 4 kids, so it's like there's no such thing as a dull moment, I think, in our life. but no, it's been a good week all in all, and I'm excited to talk to you today. You've got some pickups, and you wanted to touch on, I think, specifically the Michael Jordan PSA 10 market. We'll kind of dive into those topics, and I'm sure we'll probably spin off in other things like we always do.
Yeah, totally. I am very much in the pickup mode. And I'm just going for it.
Dennis has been on
a couple things, but I'm going from I went down to 12 cards, and now I'm up to about maybe 30. I'm talking slab cards of somewhat of decent value and significance. I picked up a few cards that are in the $400, $500 range, and then up and up and up. So I just feel like there's a cool opportunity being presented, and it's all 90s stuff mostly. Because that's kind of where I love to be and play, and I love the designs and the cards in hand. They're so amazing. So I'm just kind of like a sucker for that stuff. But I'm just having fun, buying cards again. But there is a investment. I know I never thought I'd start talking about that again, but I do have a handful of cards. Here's the thing. It's kind of funny because I went and took about 10 of my cards of the 30. I took the 10 most valuable ones that are all worth a good amount, and I took them to the safe deposit box. And I have never done that before. I've always liked having my cards at home with me, which is an interesting debate. That in the comment section, tell me what you think about that. Are you okay with vaulting? Would you? I mean, and I'm not talking just all cards. I'm talking about the ones that are pretty valuable. That if they were to be stolen, you're not getting them back, right? I mean, they're very, very valuable. I have all those, and I took all those and I put them in the safe deposit box because I'm at the bank. I'm a banker, right? So I get one anyway. So I'm like, well, I might as well utilize it, and I put them in there. I thought it was cool putting them in those little cases, but my box isn't big enough. I had to literally just take them out and put them in there. But you get to a point where you're like, I don't feel comfortable with these cards being at home, as they keep growing in value. So I had to take 10 of them. And I have the rest I'm playing with. So part of me was like, I want to get some more to have.
I'm in the same boat. We have it's like time sharing with the other parent. That's me with the safety deposit box. It's like, I like having it at home sometimes, but not all the time at all. It's kind of but it's kind of a treat.
Yeah. Like your star. Yeah. I bet you have your star sitting in a safe deposit box, like your star Jordan, those kind of cards. You're like, I just don't feel comfortable. It's just too, they're too valuable. And that's obviously a great problem to have, but it's also kind of like, dang it, I wish I kind of had it right now that I'm grabbing more cards. I'd be super cool to have it. But yeah, so yes, I've kind of gotten into the mode of buying and yeah. So how about you? Have you been kind of in that mode? What are you doing? Or you have a different approach right now you're in?
So there's a couple of auctions that are coming up that I want to make sure that I'm well capitalized for. Is that a good banking term?
Sure is.
I want to make sure that I've got some cash ready for it. So I am trying to be disciplined with my buys. I did buy, hold on, let me pull up my most recent buy. I'll pull it up because I'm really excited about it. I'm actually annoyed. My wife and I got into a spat today. Not really, but it was kind of like, I'm on a call. She's on a call. Signatures required. We're at home. Nobody answers the door. I'm yelling down like, somebody answer the door, muting muting the call. So I get, somebody answer the door. Nobody answers the door. And so the thing doesn't get delivered. I've got the USPS slip where I've got to go. And
no, the pig slip.
So it's not like a gigantic card to where, it's an issue, but hold on. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Yeah, here we go. It's a card that I've wanted for a while, but it's all about price point for this card. Mm-hmm. And again, I have the 2017 Prism Gold for Alvin Kamara. Of course, I'm a huge Saints fan, and the beauty of not buying this card with Patrick Mahomes, where it's $500,000, right. If it's Alvin Kamara, I got his true gold for about $500, $525. It's BGS 95. And then I added in here the auto version of the card out of 10 for 600 is what that ended up going for that I bought it for.
That's crazy. So 100 more bucks gets you the wow.
And that's what I love about football running backs, you know, but you've seen, I mean, like actually our buddy Brent has Deep Value Investor. He's got the Black Finite 1 of 1 of this card. And what's funny is he sent it off. This is like 18 months ago. He sent it off to, what is it, MC Cards or whatever that consigner is on eBay. Good consigner. And MC Sports Cards, I think is the name of it. And it sold for like $2,500 and they didn't pay. So then I reached out to Brent and I was like, hey, I bid like $1,700 for it. The $2,500 didn't pay. And I'm like, hey, can we make a deal on it? He didn't want to make a deal on it. You know, he was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep it. And I think he still got it. Maybe he's moved it by now, but I think he still got it. But since then, you see like the Derrick Henry Black Finite sold for like $25,000 or something crazy, you know, and it's from 2016. So you've seen kind of over the last couple of years, the Black Finites, the golds out of 10, they have gone up. This is one though, Alvin Kamara, probably because he plays for my Saints, which I'm happy about. The price points just haven't moved on it, which is fantastic for me. I collect them. So, but yeah, that's my most recent, you know, pickup, and it'll probably be my last one here for a little bit as I save up.
As you save up, because you're getting ready for some other stuff. Got it. Yeah, there's interesting plays and opportunities. So what I'll show my pickups here in a minute. Actually, I can scroll through my whole collection basically fairly quickly because
if you want to share screen on one or two of them, I can put it up if you want to, or you can just explain. Either way.
Either way, I can do that. Yeah. I'll throw the new ones up there. What I'm thinking, what I've noticed is like there's a lot more. There seems to be this trend of Michael Jordan cards setting records. Now there's like a whole nother, like I know Cajun Cardboard has like the hierarchy with all the cards that are worth, you know, tiers and all that, which is a very cool thing. Don't get me wrong, but I think you got to be careful with that kind of stuff because some of those guys have been collecting those cards for a long time. So they don't have to spend the kind of money you need to spend to get those anymore, right? They've matured so much in price. So you get priced out of most stuff pretty quick. If you want to buy more than like one card and have to mortgage everything you have to get that one card, which is no fun. And I think consolidation is kind of fun, but it's also kind of not fun because so you have one really great card that's awesome, but then you only have one card and that's boring. And it's way more fun to collect a lot of cool cards. But I've been noticing there's a lot of that going on, and it makes me. It kind of boils down to the same thing. Michael Jordan is like, in my opinion, he's the king of collectible. His stuff just is gonna. It's always gonna be worth money, right? You're not gonna. It's hard to lose with Michael Jordan. So at that point, then you have to kind of start boiling.
And then it's like if Michael Jordan's vulnerable, then everybody is.
Well, then we're just done. Everybody's toast.
I guess you could argue maybe if he's not dead, he's not Babe Ruth or one of these guys that can't screw up his legacy. He can still screw up his legacy technically, but you're right though. As far as a living player goes, you can't beat that one.
Him and Ken Griffey Jr. to me are pretty solid. Like. They transcend everything in their sport and all the stuff, and they kind of have that appeal. They hit the whole nostalgia thing for all of us our age. They hit it hard, and they hit it for people even older than us and younger than us. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's opportunities. It's like I want to get more MJ cards. I got a couple cool PSA 10s from the 80s that I jumped into before they got too crazy, and I go back and forth in the All-Star card, as we all know, but. You just can't afford a lot of those really cool top tier cards, but there are still, you see it all the time on Card Ladder, and I don't know if my buddy Chris is throwing that in there all the time with the headlines sales. Who knows? It's always kind of interesting when I see nothing but Michael Jordan. It's like, okay, feels like Chris there, but probably not though. But then you look at the sales and how much they grew, and it's like.
Chris is just showcasing his collection, and it's just all of the new high sales.
Right? I'm like, what's going on here? But then I'm like, then you look at how much they like when you bought it. Someone bought it for like $300 and just sold for $12,000. You're like, well, of course that's a massive sale. That's going to trigger all the alarms, right? Like, holy cow. So it's like, yeah, maybe it's not. I don't think it's. I think it's just he's just that guy. He's that important. His cards are that sought after and demand. And then obviously when these cards start selling for a lot, the people that bought them for $300 are like, well, time to cash in, this isn't a top tier card, so I'm going to go sell it now. And now these cards are coming up and they're coming up for sale. So I started looking at like, okay, what's the next one? And what are cool 90s PSA 10s, especially of like that. I don't know what tier Brian would call it, Cajun Brian. I don't know what tier he'd call it, but it's probably not a high tier, but they're still cool cards. Like, 96, 95, 96 to 99, but not like the high, super iconic cards. There's some opportunities there because then you go and maybe not like, so I'll give you an example. I went and picked up a platinum medallion, 97 platinum medallion, or not platinum. Sorry. That's not possible. 97 gold medallion, PSA 10. There's like 58 of them in PSA 10. So it's not too many, but it's not a lot. And it's right now kind of like a perfect, you can get it for 3K but you're not spending 25K or that kind of craziness. You go up to the platinum medallion, so it's like a step down from not even the best card from that set or that parallel, but you go to a platinum medallion and it's numbered. That's like 100 at PSA 10 anyway. That's like $150,000 card more. So like, yeah, that's not happening. So you have to go. I think there's an opportunity there if you're an MJ guy or you want to pick up some MJ. If you want to get something that'll mature over time, almost like a stock in a way. I know it's crazy. I'm saying this out loud right now, but he's almost the one guy you can kind of think about that with, right? And I mean, let me just take 3K and bet on it right there. I'm gonna put it in there. It's a cool looking card. So even if you have it, it's a cool looking card, but it's not like a card that you're like, oh my gosh, down the road, if it's worth a ton, I can't sell it because it's so amazing and so rare. No, there's a few of them. So you can sell it later. Like heck, like when my oldest daughter, 2 or 3 years down the road is going to be driving, like I can sell it and buy a car for her. And I'll take the appreciation and run with it, right? I think there's an opportunity there. I know we're not an investment. That's not what we talk about and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not an investor and I don't take any of this. All the disclaimers, all of them, you know what they are. Value.
Yeah,
we're all adults here talking about this stuff. All of us spend too much money on cards for the most part. So there's probably always one guy in the comments like, I never do and I never have and you guys are all stupid. Other than that guy who's like the most intelligent guy ever, apparently. We all spend a lot of money.
The one thing I wonder with the Jordan market, it does feel like you're right, kind of like, and I guess I'm talking specifically about the PSA 10 Michael Jordan market, because I do think that there is a focus on PSA 10. Now, I know that there's huge high-end collectors. I mean, I've had a couple, and I'm not talking about Chris, of course, is one, Chris Hoge, but I know of others that have reached out to me and said like, hey, look, I've got 7 figures of Michael Jordan cards, and anytime these rare ones pop up, I'm gonna buy them and stack them. I'm gonna keep them. I'm gonna hoard them. So I know that there's not 1 or 2 or 3. There's probably a couple dozen folks like that, maybe more, that are spending serious cash on Jordan cards. And I kind of wonder, is it those guys stacking a lot of this stuff and just trying to kind of gather as much of that population as they can and just say, maybe they're like, hey, look, I mean, some of these guys, maybe it's like, hey, I'm gonna put a few $1 million because maybe they've got 20 million. I'm gonna put a few $1 million into Michael Jordan cards. That's my focus because I think it's awesome. And I want to have the best Michael Jordan collection. And they're all battling each other, trying to get the best cards, or maybe it's a combination of these two things, or is it new money coming in? When new money comes in and they look at this space, and they look at the gambling products and they look around at all the weird shit, do they finally come back to like, you know what? I remember Michael Jordan. Like that's about as like solid as it's going to get. Let me focus in. Let me zero in on, maybe that's the GOAT that they're going to go for. You got Tom Brady, I guess Tom Brady / Patrick Mahomes now, question mark. That's a whole nother episode. You got Brady, but you've got the Ruths and you've got the Mickey Mantles and you've got the Jordans, kind of the hobby darlings for GOAT status, and where the money is pooled to cards. It's very clear that people that are our age and probably a little bit older, I would say 50 and under, are heavily focused on the Jordan market. It feels like there's a heavy focus on that.
And so why wouldn't you be? And why wouldn't you be, right?
Point, so you bought a $3,000 card that's in your price range, and there might be someone that buys a $300 PSA 10 Michael Jordan card because he's got a ton of cards. I mean, the guy's got a whole slew of options for you. But I think there is something to be said about PSA 10 Michael Jordan cards just in general.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if you really,
but answer me this, Dennis. Is it kind of the high end Michael Jordan guys that are really like anytime these things pop up, they want to add it in, kind of stack these, or do you think it's new money or a combination of these two things?
I don't know. Like, it could be set collectors. They want a PSA 10 full set of the gold medallion set, so he's obviously one of them. You buy it. That card sells a lot, so I don't know about that. Could be. The PSA 10 is important in my opinion because you check a lot of boxes. It's PSA, it's a strong brand, so you got that going for you. Set registry is going to always, nobody else has that set registry. That's on your side. So in any set and any card you get, especially the really unique and iconic ones, once you get a PSA 10, it kind of gives you an opportunity. You can lean into a lot of things here. Someone's going to want it at some point. My stinking email is going crazy. Someone's going to want it at some point to finish their set. Then you kind of walk down the road and go, all right, now it's the player. The player is important. There's a big time player. I think basketball. I think I'm leaning hard into basketball now because basketball, especially in the 90s, is just. I think there's other players. I've been recently buying Ray Allen, and I'm looking at Allen Iverson, and of the cool 90s sets, right? But the PSA 10, but when you do any of this stuff, if you keep it with PSA, that kind of gives you that backstop of people in the set registry are going to want them. But then when you think about Jordan in general, I think he's just exactly what I'm thinking and you're thinking. Like, well, if I'm going to spend any money on a card, I'm spending it on Jordan because I feel like it has the best opportunity to mature in value, be a good store of value. Because otherwise, because here's the thing, I don't PC Michael Jordan, so why would I buy it? Of course, he's great, and I love him, and grew up with him, and I love to collect a lot of different players, but it's because it's Michael Jordan, and I can go buy the same card of Ray Allen in that set, and it's going to be, I think he's in that set. He might not be. Maybe he is. If he is, it's probably going to be a fraction of the cost in a PSA 10.
I think why we buy Michael Jordan or Tom Brady, it's kind of to anchor the rest of the stuff. So it's like if you have if 60% of your holdings, let's call it your store of value, is in kind of like Jordan or Jordan-like folks, Babe Ruth or Jordan or Mantle or whoever that person is for you, you probably feel comfortable. Oh yeah, I can go buy Ray Allen because I've got, for you it's Griffey and Jordan. You've got Barry Sanders, which on the football side, Barry Sanders is kind of coming into his own as well as one of these kind of these hobby guys. That's just, if you have kind of important cards for these sorts of guys, kind of falls in that same bucket. Because you've got important players, and I have kind of a similar story. I've got Drew Brees cards for sure, but to kind of, I'm not retiring off of Drew Brees cards. Not that I'm retiring off of any of this stuff. I don't need it to retire off of. Yeah. But do I want to have 90% of my collection be Drew Brees and the other 10% be Michael Jordan and all the other guys? No, that's not what I want. I want it to probably be more like 15% is the Brees and those guys that I love, the Saints guys, or whatever, Bobby Hebert. And then I've got the other 80%, 85% or whatever and stuff that's like, I feel pretty solid about. But.
Right. So I've never thought about it that way, but that's actually really brilliant. Because
but the thing though is I feel like those percentages can change all the time. You might try to take on more risk, or you might think, I don't know. I feel like that's between every collector's got kind of their own view of that.
Right. And they have their thresholds of what they feel comfortable spending and all that. But I do feel like I think inadvertently, and I think you're not even thinking about it, but you're doing it because you're like, well, I need to put some of these bigger cards in here to kind of buoy and anchor the rest of the stuff I want to collect and buy. I think everybody as a collector, and if you have a little bit of hey, I want to maybe see the cards grow in value. Everybody wants to see the cards they buy grow in value. Just no matter how much you spend on them. Everybody wants to see them go up. It's exciting. It's like anytime that happens, it's exciting. What's not exciting is buying something and 50% of its value goes away in a couple months. And there's a lot of things that affect that. Everybody starts selling them and it tanks the card because there's too many. There's no scarcity any longer. my thing is, I'm like, okay, so for me, I went and picked up, and I guess I'll just share one card I got. It just kind of an example of cards that I got. And here, I'll show the Michael Jordan here anyway, and I'll just
Oh yeah, I want to see that.
share it. So you can
oh yeah, that's a cool
see there's the
picture.
alt value. I use alt kind of. It's a cool card. I mean, it's not like it's not like your 88 Fleer base card where he's making this weird. It's like the worst picture ever. It's just a cool card. There's some pretty cool ones. There's I think the 98's really cool too because it's like a horizontal, and he's dunking, and it's like the picture's taking of him above the hoop. Pretty cool stuff. So this is a cool card, right? But it's not super out of reach. You scroll down and pay 59. I think it's more like 65. Alt, don't trust this, verbatim. But you look at this, 3 of them sold in January alone. All at the same time. I think they all 3 hit. And they all sold for 3. That always makes me laugh because how in the world did that happen? But you go look at every one and there's different bids and they're all different certs. But, and this is what I like to do when I look at cards. I go and I check out how often does it sell. If you got to click show more than once, it's a card that's fairly available. Even if it's got a lower, even if it's got a lower pop. It sells a lot. Like you go to the 88 Fleer and you're doing that for days.
That's odd to me though, because I don't know why, but I just think that there's enough Jordan collectors out there. If there's only 60 or so PSA 10s, why does that transact so much? You would think that at least half of them go sit in collections somewhere, right?
And so that's okay there. And so what you just got done saying is the differentiator. That tells you how collectible a card is. If it transacts a lot. And this isn't even taken into because I bought mine privately, so my sale's not on there. I use this to guide how much I wanted to pay, but I bought it privately with somebody else. But I think that what I was looking for before this was the Duncan Go Nuts card in a PSA 10, but that was a little more expensive. But that one doesn't sell very much, and it's not out there very often. And there's issues with it kind of yellows sometimes because it's a clear card, acetate card.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that you got to think about, but. If it doesn't sell a lot and it's infrequent in sale, that means people want to keep it. Once they get it, they keep it. They don't sell it. I have my cards that are valuable, like my David Robinson. Now, you won't see any sale on here, and I'll just show it to you. So this is the difference between a card that transacts a lot and a card that doesn't. To give you an idea, and there's cards that. It's a pop 1, it's never sold, and you're the only one that has it. So this is a card, obviously, that's never sold. And that doesn't know what it's worth and all that jazz, but you look down here, there's not very many, never sold. 8, never sold. 9, 8.5, 8, no transactions. I'm not going to sell this card. I've got a lot of people that want to buy it, but I won't sell it. And
that's a great picture on that Robinson.
Yeah, it's a great card. Another example of a card like that. The Legacy Row Zero. This is what it's worth. There's not that many of them. It's a very popular card. Only 4 public sales on here.
How far is it going back?
April 6th, 2022. That's it. And there's only 6 of them. This is a card you don't ever sell, and it's a Griffey. No one's going to sell it. You have hardcore collectors. And I'll show one more to kind of illustrate the point. The Bowman Atomic. I got this one. I'm super happy I got this one because it's a black diamond. It's the only black diamond. There are only 9 of them in PSA 10 anyway, and it's a super rare card. The Kobe is going through the roof in this anyway. It's like a $11,000 to $17,000 card, PSA 10 out of 100. Griffey just doesn't sell, but this one sold a handful of times though, but not that many. See, I just had to view all, not keep going. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In my sales in here, so it's one of the 6. So other than me, 5 times, only 9. Black Diamond is the only one. And the Black Diamond will probably, I've had offers for a lot, way more, 3 or 4 times what I paid for that card. But now they've looked at that. That's the collector card. The Mirror Gold is only one. And another thing you look at is how many are for sale at any given moment. So I'll look at, I picked up this Ray Allen. This is a cool card, right? You still can get a cool precious metal, the precursor to precious metal gems. His rookie card, he had PSA 9. It's not worth that much. picked up for a couple $100. It doesn't sell a lot, but well, maybe it does. But that's people probably don't. Not a lot of collectors out there for.
Yeah, Ray Allen
He's just
doesn't have a
not
deep
going to be
collecting
collected,
base.
not as collected as Griffey and Kobe and.
Yeah.
Right. But then you look at how many are for sale at any given moment. So let's just do that for a second. Okay, let's use the Barry Sanders gold. Okay, Barry Sanders doesn't sell very much. It's rare. There's not very many of them. We all know that. But then I also look when I'm looking at a card, how many are for sale right now? One. Guy wants $50,000. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But so when you factor in, it doesn't sell, but it doesn't change hands a lot. There's not very many for sale. You can do the same thing with any of these cards. Not very many. I got a Jerry Rice. Not very many for sale. And you can also start looking. I'll get out of this now and stop sharing the screen. You can also start looking at, all right, doesn't change hands very much. We don't see very many for sale. Is it going up as it continues to sell? Is there like a lot of up and down? Everybody has a 2021 price. It's stupid. But is it like outside of that? Is it slowly creeping up? And I went and picked up the 90. No, I'm going to start push this over to my other screen so I'm not staring the other way. If it's slowly going up, and are you looking at a very collectible player like a Griffey or a Jordan? You go, okay. Not that you should, have this like FOMO. I got to get it now, fear of missing out. But there is a part of you like, okay, perfect. Case in point. I'll use an example of this. Okay, I'll give you an example. The Atomic Refractor, 98 Atomic Refractor, the one I just showed you, the Griffey. This counterpart in basketball, Kobe Bryant. It's out of 100, PSA 10. There's like 15 or 16 of them in PSA 10, I think. I bought and sold that card. Last year, I bought it for like $4K and I sold it for $5. Not bad. I was going to hang on to it, but we've talked about this 1,000 times. I just changed my mind. I wanted to get something else. And so I sold it. That recently sold for $11,000 and $17,000. That happens sometimes too. And you're like, oh, crap. I sold that card and it went up in value. That's one I probably should have hung on to in retrospect, right?
You know what's kind of what this also just made me think about is, and not to say this happens with every card, but we're talking about Jordan, we're talking about Griffey. If we're using kind of like very, very collectible players in the market, it feels like on some of these high end, and let's just call high end like $2,000 plus, just $2,000 plus, there is more of an opportunity. It's higher risk, higher reward, I guess, but it does feel like when you're looking at, you just made a perfect example, like just shared an example of this where a card doubled from 5 to 10,000. It seems like that happens more often with these larger cards that are rare. You'll have someone that'll come in and pay. Whereas if you have a $300 card, sure, maybe it inches up over time. Maybe it drops over time. Maybe, like you just never kind of know. But it does feel like right now, at least in this environment, that there's a lot of buying and selling and velocity with some of the higher end stuff for certain players.
For certain players, and I kind of think the sweet spot right now, Dustin, is like the 1 to 5K range. If you get into a card between 1 and 5K, there's a chance I think it could grow. There might, and for certain players, certain sets, PSA 10s especially, the ones that are still at that price point, not many are. There, and that's the gamble I guess I put in with the Jordan 97 gold medallion. I'm like, well, this might go up. I kind of feel like this might be, and I've made that assessment on a handful of cards. Like that's why I got the Barry PSA 9. I'm like, I think these mirror gold cards, because the baseball mirror golds are nice. The Jeter and the Griffey are like outstanding prices, right? They're just out of this world price. So nobody's affording them anymore. They're out of 35. I think they're out of 30 with baseball, but they're out of 35 with basketball or with football and baseball, or football and football. And the football just looked, it's like a shine. It's almost like the 24 karat gold shine. It's beautiful. It's a really, really cool card. So that's why I went and got a PSA 8 Jerry Rice. I'm like, Jerry Rice, Barry Sanders, like these are big players. You can still go get a Brett Favre. You can go get a John Elway for $1,000 right now. PSA 9. Mirror gold, 96 select certified. Super beautiful cards. I got a Jim Kelly, my son. I got it for like a couple $100. It's like his favorite card he has. He doesn't know who Jim Kelly is. He just he knows the Bills because of Jim Allen or Josh Allen, and he plays Madden with me all the time. So he kind of puts those two together. But so this is an example of a card that's not that much in a really cool set and a beautiful looking card. Hall of Fame player, not a lot of pop because there was only 35 of them, so it can't be crazy. Right. Mint condition, PSA 9, because everybody, in those sets, you kind of think about PSA 9. That's a mint condition card. All of us 80s kids, that was the mint. There was no gem mint when we were collectors in mint. It said mint. They were like, oh my gosh, mint condition. That's a big deal. Then, okay, so here's the other thing I'm going to factor in, all this PSA 10 stuff. With the 9s are okay, cool with that set. You can go get some of those cool cards of players like that Hall of Fame, like Ray Allen, John Elway, whatever, and those really cool like select certified mirror golds. Those are fun. Great way to collect. You can still get them at a price that's not crazy. And I don't have any of those cards. So if you wanted to go buy a John Elway, or if you wanted to go buy a mirror gold Brett Favre, you can go get them right now. Like I think there's a couple for sale. Super cool cards. And if anybody wants to go, hey, I want to know more about the set, just DM me. Let me know. I'd love to talk to you about it. Because this is really fun. This is fun stuff. And I don't feel like you're selling the farm when you buy them, right? I mean, 1K could be a lot to a lot of people too. So I'm not trying to project that that's not a lot of money. But the PSA 10 now, if you see the new grading standards that came out from PSA, I'm probably stealing your thunder here if you haven't already done a video on this. You could probably elaborate on this later. But
I skipped this topic. So I skipped. I didn't do a video on this one. Yeah. It was like
they're tightening.
Because basically Nat was like, this is what we've been doing for years. We just changed the language on the website. But basically, like his response is like, yeah, this has like been it, but we just like changed the verbiage or whatever. Now people are going to take that however they're going to take it. But
yeah, I think from a set registry standpoint, I think from the fact that if you have the modern cards, especially 90s, it's always hard to gem anyway. That's a really tough thing to do. What drives the value of the 80s cards and a lot of these high pop 90s cards is the PSA 10, because otherwise there's like millions of created, right? What you think when you look at that, you go, all right, now the PSA 10 is becoming even more valuable because people want the best version of the card. There's something about that's kind of cool. Knowing they're even stricter than most graders. The set registry is a huge deal, right? Because there's people who are competing, getting awards, being invited to events, things of that nature. Adds a whole other level and layer to it. So I think that PSA, if it was PSA, to make it even more difficult for PSA 10, because it just gets these people even more jacked into it. And it kind of increase it. Is it a falsified valuation of a card and pushing it up? Maybe, I don't know. It's debatable, but I like having a PSA 10. Especially for a card like that. I don't want a PSA 9. I'm fine with a PSA 9 like that Barry Sanders Mirror Gold. I can live with that because there's not very many of them, right? But when you start talking about these cards that aren't serial numbered, that's it. That's the play.
Right. Yeah, but it's also no different than a vintage card. Like if you take if it doesn't have a serial number on it, then it's kind of similar to a vintage card. It's really just about quality, condition.
Registration,
price. Yeah, the price. Now, beauty is in the eye of the beholder with a lot of vintage cards, and there's 4s that look better than 6s, so it's a little bit different than modern, ultra modern grading. But it's the same line of thinking, though. It's all based on how does it grade out? What's the condition on it? So you're right.
Now, the big question is going to be, is Dustin going to go out and start looking at mirror golds? Is Dustin going to go out and start looking at PSA 10 Michael Jordan cards? Because I think the last time we talked about Prism silvers,
I know.
We're worried about influencing other people, and we're influencing ourselves.
I know. And then I'm selling off some of my silver prisms from 2012 so I can buy into other things. That's always what happens.
I know it. Yep.
I haven't gotten the bug yet to really get into 90s, parallels and inserts and the numbered stuff, which is probably a good thing because it would swallow up, my entire wallet. I'd have to sell everything to do it.
Be careful. Yeah, it's not a fun.
It's not a dislike. I mean, I like them, but I think again, when you really take stock on, do you like it or do you love it? I don't want to, I feel like if I'm forcing it because, there's a larger group that's my age that likes those cards, and then I'm not going to be happy with it. It's like, that just feels like I'm forcing it.
Yeah,
I want to make sure that whole collect what you like thing. I like a lot of stuff. And that's the other problem too, is I don't just collect sports cards. It's non-sports and it's action figures and it's graded video games and all sorts of stuff. So, I've got to even more so think about, every last dime that's going out.
You do. And that's always a caveat, this whole conversation with, within your means, and always have a way to get out. And, a lot of the cards, they're very liquid too, right? These Jordans, you sell them if you need to, like that. I've bought and sold the 88 Fleer All-Star one, which is such a cool card, but You sell it, and you're going to get your money. I could, sell it on any platform, and I'm going to get pretty much what they always sell for, right? Minus the fee. It's pretty consistent. I think that you have to love it, right? So like for me, the 80s and the PSA 10s, that's kind of cool because it kind of feels like I got the best version of that card, right? These like more rare cards that are serial numbered of the cool sets, that's like the card looks so cool. Like,
yeah,
I can't afford Jordan or Kobe or Ken Griffey Jr. anymore. Some of these sets because I'm priced out of it, but I can still afford Allen Iverson or Ray Allen or or Steve Nash or Tim Duncan or Shaquille O'Neal or somebody like that. Shaquille O'Neal is becoming out of control now. So you just kind of have to I feel like a lot of these guys are getting out of control in that era of cards.
Yeah.
I know not everyone's collecting 90s, but in that era of cards, like they're just kind of getting out of reach. Where you're like, man, I can't get that anymore, and I don't want to just sell all my cards to buy that one card. I'd rather have another player in the set that's worth. I know it's not going to go but it's still I can have one. I can still because I got the Ray Allen 24 karat gold. I'm not going to be able to get many more 24 karat gold. They're just too expensive. But I can get a Ray Allen one for fairly decent price, and it looks awesome. And I get another one because I already have a Barry, and I'm like, I just want another one. So yeah, I think there's a fun way to collect like that. I guess I shouldn't be doing it. I know I shouldn't be going crazy on it, but I'm just kind of stacking some cards up from the 90s in these cool sets because I still want one from the set, and yeah. So different mindset. I've talked a lot more than you on this episode, so I kind of feel bad about that. But
no, all good.
No, what's your I mean, and all I know we didn't talk about all the backyard stuff because I don't think we need to. Everybody's hammered that home for days. And if you follow me on Instagram, you saw how I feel about it. So we know how you feel about it. You did a great job, by the way, my friend.
Oh,
you were right on it. No, you were right on it, and you hit it nail on the head. It was just awesome. I'm glad you said what you said, and you stood up for that. And I'm glad other people decided to do it too. I think one of our good buddies, it took some dragging, but he finally did it. But yeah, and I think it was a great video too. And so there's a lot of good stuff out there talking about it. We don't need to really get into that, but I do think the breaking is where people are really at in this hobby. I think the collector space is this big. There's nothing like the breaking. I was at my softball practice, my daughter's fast pitch travel team softball practice last night. And there's 4 of us guys that get along really well on the team. They have daughters that are playing on the team. And one guy's we're talking about gambling and breaking. I'm like, you talking about sports card breaking? And all 3 of them are there. That's all they do. They get into breaks and buy cards. They collect cards. And I'm like I do cards. Like that's like what I do. That's my thing. And they're like, are you kidding me? Like, oh yeah. And but they're holding on to Josh Allen. They've got all these cool cards. They're doing football just like you. They got modern football. They got their teams, but they're all about breaks. And they all knew about the backyard thing too, right? It was really crazy. And I'm like, these guys that have been around for the past year, we've never talked about it, but they're all into
cards. Yeah, you just found out that they're into cards. But it is a totally different world though. It's like
it's not what I have. Yeah. I start talking about the cards I have. They're like, wow, that's cool. What is that set? I'm like, but they know Prism, they know National Treasures, you know what I mean? Like that's what they know. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think there's a lot more people into cards, but they're into the breaking stuff, right? I don't think there's as many that are into the stuff like you and I are in. So I don't know. I could be wrong. I know I'm not saying there's not very many. I just think that if you look at the 2 different people or 2 different pillars of people in the hobby, I think it's like this. I think the breaking is it's gambling. It's like DraftKings with cardboard. Yeah, it's. Anyway.
I just don't think that side is sustainable in that way. I've heard way too many stories from people that have reached out to me directly and content creators that have shared similar viewpoints from people that they know. And all that of just people that they did breaks for a year and then they were out and then they were completely out. It's like they lost a lot of money and then they were out. Now, I guess you could say, oh, well, that's similar to 2020 and 2021 where people overspent on singles and then they lost money and then they got out. Sure. I guess you could say that. The difference is that the singles side really corrected itself, but the breaking side never did. The breaking side actually got larger. So it's more people that are getting, smoked in breaks. But again, I think, and plenty of people have told me I'm the old man yelling into the clouds. That's part of the game. That's part of the game. And I'm thinking That's not part of my game at all. Like, I don't need to do I don't have to have any part of that game. Like the singles market is really, to me, that's really where it's at. I don't see how you could really make an argument against it right now. If you're looking at, where can you spend your hobby dollar and get the most value, out of it. Now, if you get entertainment value, if that is so entertaining to you that, breaks make, the amount of money you're spending in it and it works out for you, then that's fantastic. And for some people, I know that that's it, but it just feels like it's got an end date to it. It just feels like people that get into it, they're going to do that for a certain period of time, and then they're going to lose a bunch of money, or they're going to get, they're just going to get sick of it eventually, and then they're going to get out. Like, they're going to be in and they're going to be out. They're not going to stay unless they see, oh, wow, there's a whole nother world over here. Here's the other side of the national, where there's actually people that just buy singles and just collect cards, and then they get into that.
Yeah, there's an like you said, there's an expiration date on that mentality. Now, I wonder, here's the question for you, and a question for the folks that listen to us for this long anyway. If you've gotten to this point of our episode, then you get to participate, and we're all going to know if you've listened to this point of the episode, because we actually answered these questions. We'll see how many people actually did. How do we bridge that gap? How do we bridge that gap, or how do we create collectors from people that are entering the hobby space via breaking? How do we get them, other than someone like me going, hey guys, I know you like breaking, and I'm talking to these guys in person going, but you got to really start thinking about this. Because they ask me, like, what are you doing? I just buy singles. They're like, really? What are singles? What are singles? Singles are like graded cards that are already graded. You don't have to worry about hitting the card. You go find the card, you buy the card, and then you grade it, or you buy it graded and you collect it. And
maybe it's simply as, hey, how much do you spend monthly on breaks? $1,000 or $2,000, and then showing them a single
this
that
is
they
what you can buy with that money.
Yeah. Here's a $2,000 card. This represents what you would spend on breaks, and it's a badass card, and how much did you get back? You spent $2,000. What's your typical, like, how much do you get back usually from that? And maybe they'll say 1,000, maybe they'll say 5,000. Who knows? Maybe they're doing great. I'm sure there's people I know there's actually people that are supposedly doing amazingly well, and they win in breaks. And I'm like, okay, that's like the guy at the poker table that's always wins, right? Like, yeah, buddy, we know you're always up. The blackjack, they always beat the blackjack dealer. It's like, okay, but that might be a way to do it. I don't know. Just actually talk the money part through them.
It could be.
But it also could be like they don't care about it. It's just another way to, like, do fantasy football. It could be as simple as just like,
I think it's that. Yeah. I don't think I got all excited and started talking about all these cards. They're like, what's that? And I'm like, okay, I'm geeking on them now. They're like, okay, this guy got really excited and quickly realized that this is all surface level right now for these guys. That's
they're like, man, this dude is such a nerd, this card collector. We're cool. We're the gamblers. We're actually cool because we're gambling. This guy's he's an actual card nerd.
Yeah, I was getting excited. I was all giddy. I'm like, oh, it's like Christmas morning. I've got new friends. Oh, it's going to be so great. And I started talking. I'm like, what's that? I'm like, oh, no. Okay, never mind, whatever. Hey, everybody, thanks for sticking around so long with us. This is a long episode, but a fun one. I think we just kind of rambled on, at least I did the whole time. Sorry if you guys were annoyed by that, but rambled on about my collecting philosophy. But it was fun. And I think then we finished off with, like, how do we get collectors from from folks that are entering via breaking? I wonder how we do that. So maybe throw your thoughts and on that. Is, do we ever get collectors out of that? Is that just like Dustin says, there's an expiration date to that person coming in, because they're going to go, because they were all complaining about their wives getting mad about them, because their wives just basically look at it like gambling. And I'm like, well, guys, you can turn that around. If you collect the cards, it can become a hobby, and it's different. It's not just spending money and losing it and having nothing to show for it, but a really, because they were talking about buying top sapphire boxes, and this time they pull like a player that's not even playing in the league anymore, something like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you get when you do that, unfortunately, most of the time. But that's how tops and everybody makes their money. Or you can just go buy the card that's already really cool for the same price, and you'll have it.
Really,
and it's
really turned into it's turned into, like, more so than ever, it's a game for suckers. It really is. Like, can we get enough suckers in here to buy these huge boxes and to pay these huge money for break spots? Now, look, if you collect the New Orleans Saints like me and you're buying a $20 break spot to get the New Orleans Saints cards, that's fine. That's a whole different conversation though. That's very little of what's happening, in breaks. But if that's what you're doing, look, I could buy, hey, if it's $20 for me to get all the Saints cards out of a 3-box, I don't know, Prism boxes, then okay, maybe I throw $20 in and you give me all the Saints cards. I don't know. Like that makes a little bit of sense for me, a little bit of sense. But that's not what we're seeing though. The repack game and the breaking game is mostly, it's huge money. It's huge money that's being thrown around in that game. But anyway.
It is. It's
all
dangerous.
Right. We're at 46 minutes. We've blown way past. No, I'm kidding. No, these are always 30 to 45 minutes. Awesome hanging out at DPZ for another episode. We'll be back. If not next week, definitely the week after. We need to talk, I guess, Super Bowl results we can talk about. Luka went to the Lakers. I think he'll have played over. I think he's supposed to be back sometime soon. So we'll catch up on all this stuff in the next episode.
What do we do? Let's do it real quick before we go. Let's do our Super Bowl picks. Who do you got?
Oh, it's going to be the damn Chiefs. And the sad thing, like in my video today, it's like picking between Jason and Freddy Krueger. Like I just don't like either team, but I guess I have to go for the Eagles because I just can't see, Travis Kelce and the Swifties, storm the field and, all that. I just can't. It's like I'm just so exhausted from it. So I'm going for the Eagles.
You're going for the Eagles, but you're picking the Chiefs to win.
I think the Chiefs are going to win.
You think the Chiefs are going to win? Okay.
It's prophecy at this point.
I think the Eagles are going to win. And
they are the team best suited to beat the Chiefs because of their
think they have more talent, and I think the running game is starting to become a thing now. And the running game is a disruptor in the NFL. And when you have a good running game and a great line, that's a differentiator and a disruptor. So if my money would be on, I'm taking Philly. I think Philly's going to win. And I'd be happy for it. It's a win for Saquon, which is really cool, which means it's going to be a win for my man, Ashton Genty, coming out of Boise State. Running backs are cool again. Barry Sanders, So I'm thinking the Eagles, but I'm with you. I don't want to see the Chiefs win, but everybody's annoyed with the Chiefs just like they were annoyed with the Patriots. I think we're tired of seeing this matchup. I get it. The commercials will be fun, but yeah, I think that the Eagles are going to win, and I put my money on the Eagles if I had money to put on anything. So there we go. Let's see who wins. Who's right? Who's right when we come back after
I almost want to put money on the Chiefs because I never bet on anything, and that'll be like the only way the Eagles can win is if I actually put some money on the Chiefs.
That's what I was going to say. Why don't you do that so that they win? All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging out with us for a few minutes.
All right. See you guys.